The President, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth, KFC. What do these things have in common? Well, all three spend a fortune to protect their livelihoods. But there's a lot of other places that are also extremely well protected. Some surprisingly so.
25 tons, it fills it.
From a vault containing a top-secret soft drink recipe to the United States gold reserves, let's take a look at the 15 most heavily protected places on Earth. Number 15. Coca-Cola Vault. They may be one of the most successful and celebrated companies in the world, but the Coca-Cola Company goes to great lengths to keep the secret of their success hidden. That's right, it's not just sugar and chemicals, although it is mostly sugar and chemicals, I'd bet. While rival companies have tried and failed to replicate the formula that has long allowed a glass of Coca-Cola to strip rust from metal or the lining from your stomach, all have failed, and for a good reason. Unwilling to risk their secrets falling into the hands of its competitors, the Coca-Cola Company has stored the recipe in a well-hidden vault. A smart move, right? Well, until you find out that the vault is in Atlanta's World of Coca-Cola Museum. Still, the myth has long been that only 2 people in the world have ever seen the secret formula. So I guess it works. Although, if they'd let people take a guess at the code, it would have the makings of a great sword-in-stone tale.
Coke were to get too warm, it would foam up and not stay in the bottle.
Much like KFC, Coca-Cola pretty much cornered the market on secret ingredients. Although KFC at least gives us a clue. 13 herbs and spices, you say. However, clearly the secret recipe is a major part of Coca-Cola's success. Sugar and chemicals, man. Before we go on, like this video, smash the subscribe button, and click the notification bell right now, or Slenderman will come from under your bed when you're sleeping. Number 14. Fort Knox. Just about everybody has heard the common phrase, "It's like Fort Knox," a shorthand for, what, are you crazy? We can't break in there and steal the president's curtains. Why don't you just buy your own? There are people in there. Alright, I got a little carried away there, but you get my point. The idea is it's very secure, so you'd be better off buying your own curtains. Fort Knox is home to around half of the United States gold reserves, which obviously requires some intense security.
In 1975, they started doing audits of the compartments at the bullion depository.
And boy, does it deliver. Fort Knox is surrounded by a steel fence. The building itself is made of concrete-lined granite reinforced with steel, and the whole place is littered with top-of-the-line protective devices. Now, nobody knows what that last part refers to, but some suspect it relates to landmines, electric fences, and machine guns triggered by lasers. It's all very Mission Impossible, but if Tom Cruise accidentally stepped on a mine and brought the franchise to an early close. It's very much unsurprising that nobody has ever come close to the United States stock of gold bullion. This is not just security, it's mega security. All of the above, coupled with outside guards, means you may as well turn around at the door. Number 13. Area 51. We all know that Area 51 is one of the most controversial and well-guarded places in the world, possibly ever. While many claim to have seen the inside of this legendary and mythical building, very few have actual evidence that it happened.
Providing realistic battle space to conduct tests and train military forces.
For that reason, Area 51 is basically the world's mystery box. Nobody knows what's in it, but we all kind of want to know. It feels like an understatement to say that Area 51 is well guarded. The whole site is rigged with motion sensors, cameras, sound detectors, and other unknown equipment designed to alert when an intruder arrives. But it's not just outsiders that have to abide by these rules. Those that work on the site are required to sign non-disclosure agreements, and anyone not directly involved with the testing of a new aircraft is required to stay indoors while tests are ongoing. Feel free to drop your conspiracy theories about that in the comments below. Area 51 is one of the few places in the United States which is granted the authority to use deadly force. When overly eager UFO enthusiasts attempt to scale the fence or make their way inside, chances are they'll end up a lot closer to the aliens than ever, or at least the skies. Number 12, the Vatican Secret Archives. While the world continues to demand complete transparency from their leaders, political, religious, and public, some continue to resist. For their part, the Vatican Secret Archives have kind of opened up their vaults, but, well, not really. It's as if the Pope said, "I'm going to tell you our secrets," and then just told you everyone's favorite color. The Vatican Secret Archives is an incredible 52 miles of shelves containing archival material dating back decades.
Apostolica, and the audiences of the prefecture's archives of the Papal Room.
But while these archives are now generally open to scholars, there's one section that is kept under lock and key. And even if you do get past the armed Swiss guards outside, you're never going to see it. The section in question contains the private documents of cardinals between 1922 and present day, as well as the personal materials of every pope since 1939, and church-sanctioned annulment records. All of that, obviously, has the potential to prove somewhat controversial, which may explain why they're kept so highly secured. Many scholars continue to appeal for the release of the documents, but it seems pointless. The Vatican has decided that this information should remain confidential and secure for the time being, meaning that nobody will ever get to know the true secrets of the Vatican. That's my Netflix documentary ruined then. Number 11. Pyonin White Mountains. Obviously, almost everyone has an internet service provider, but nobody really stops to think about their workplace. With that much data going in and out, it must be pretty secure, right? You have no idea. No, seriously, you have no idea. Grab a martini, shaken, not stirred. We're entering the world of James Bond. This is not, in fact, the set of a future James Bond movie. This is a recently opened data center located in an old nuclear bunker hidden deep below Stockholm City, designed for use with one of Sweden's largest ISPs. It's nuts. In case you're curious just how secure an underground bunker could be for a data center, you have to enter through entrance doors around 16 inches thick. So the answer is very. After all, this was once a Cold War-era nuclear bunker codenamed Pyonin White Mountains. It's fair to say that it was built to withstand significant security threats. The architects of the building have acknowledged that the whole thing was designed to look like something of a science fiction movie, which is somewhat comforting, although quite why they chose to go so Bond villain chic is a little bit unnerving. So I guess it balances itself out? Number 10. Guantanamo Bay Naval Station. To most people, even the world's Guantanamo Bay is synonymous with the use of torture and likely illegal acts designed to get information from potentially or allegedly dangerous individuals. It's also one of the most highly protected places anywhere in the world.
The US naval base that houses the prison sits on the southern tip of Cuba.
Located on a highly disputed piece of land in Cuba, Guantanamo Bay has, in history, been home to over 800 people designated as enemy combatants. In fact, as recently as 2018, there were still detainees being held at the prison, meaning that this facility is still being used. However, there's a good reason for it to be quite as well guarded as it is, and it goes far beyond CIA and military presence. For one, this is a facility holding potential terrorists, so it makes sense to keep the place pretty well guarded. But this is a government facility notorious for its disregard for basic human rights and its use of torture. Something apparently permitted because it's not occurring on US soil. However, the US government's presence in Cuba has been controversial for decades, with Cuban governments often fighting against what they deem to be an illegal US presence in their country. For all these reasons, it makes sense that the US government would guard this station. no matter what. After all, the threat of international retaliation is too great. Unless those foreign governments want a, tour. Number 9. Federal Reserve Bank of New York. We've all seen the movies where the genius bank robbers hit the Federal Reserve and come out as billionaires. But in reality, the New York Federal Reserve is a much harder target to hit. John McClane probably wouldn't have to do much before the robbers just gave up.
The New York Fed's gold vault is the largest depository of monetary gold in the world.
The New York Federal Reserve is the world's largest depository of gold bars, at one point even holding 12,000 tons of gold alone. That makes it a pretty popular, appealing target to any wannabe bank robbers. But the logistics of actually hitting a place like this are mind-boggling. In order to reach the gold, you would have to reach the basement, which is 80 feet below street level. Then you'd have to pass the security system, a 90-ton steel cylinder that functions as an airtight, watertight seal, as well as the steel-reinforced concrete walls, the cameras, the motion sensors, the Federal Reserve Police Force, and the vault control employees. So, not quite as simple as we thought. But even if you were to bypass all of that security prowess, you have a bigger problem. How would you escape with 6,000 tons of gold? Climbing 80 feet back to street level is a big ask when you're carrying bags of solid gold. Starting to think Ocean's 11 lied to me. Number 8. Svalbard Global Seed Vault. Here's something to consider. What would happen if a cataclysmic event wiped out all life on Earth except for humans? That's plants and animals gone. Your first answer is probably, what kind of cataclysm would do that? Good question, but you're being purposefully difficult, and I don't appreciate it. However, if your answer was, what do we eat? Very good, here's your answer.
But whatever happens, thanks to this outpost at the top of the world, at least our seeds are safe.
The Svalbard Global Seed Vault is a, global seed vault on the remote Arctic Svalbard archipelago, designed to function as a kind of backup storage facility for the world's food. Basically, the vault takes seeds from all over the globe and duplicates samples in the hope that, should a devastating incident occur, the seed could theoretically bring those extinct plants back to life. The facility is able to store up to 4.5 million different varieties of seeds, making this vault home to the most diverse collection of crops anywhere in the world. While climate change isn't exactly something to be excited about, this is definitely a comfort. So the answer to our original question has been revealed. But, no doubt, some of you are now asking what happens to the animals in the event of a cataclysmic event. Look, I have no idea. I'm just responsible for making videos like this. They'll open a nightclub. What do you want from me? Number 7. The Dead Hand Bunker. Thankfully, the Dead Hand Bunker is not a collection of severed limbs. Well, we don't think anyway. While we know what the Dead Hand Bunker is, we're not sure where it is or even if it exists anymore. So, for all we know, there could be dead hands in there.
Диктует свою непреклонную волю остальному мировому сообществу.
In 1985, the world was in the middle of a nightmarish period known as the Cold War. The US and Russia were locked in a psychological battle revolving around nuclear weapons, and the world was never entirely sure if tomorrow would bring atomic oblivion. While both sides had their preferred safeguards, Russia developed the more intriguing Perimeter, also known as Dead Hand. Dead Hand was a computer system designed to determine whether or not there had been a nuclear strike on Russian land, and whether or not the military controls at their highest level had been compromised. If so, the system sent an alert to the Dead Hand Bunker, where one person would be watching and waiting for the signal. At that point, the button would be pushed, and the nukes would head off to the west. Bye-bye Earth. Now we know that this did not happen, however we're none the wiser about the location of the bunker, nor whether it's operational anymore. For all we know, that guy is still in there, waiting. Number 6. Iron Mountain Vault. Nowadays, we like to think all of our most treasured files and documents are protected by the cloud. But that wasn't always the case. Back in the day, people had to store their treasured items in, get this, an actual physical location. Isn't that nuts? Like a real place. That's wild.
Into a world beyond imagination.
This is Iron Mountain's premier.
Of all the physical vaults in the world, there's probably none more valuable than the Iron Mountain Vault. Located a few miles outside of Pittsburgh in Butler County, this is a vast underground complex built within the frame of an abandoned limestone mine, and the contents are beyond insane. This is the place that the truly rich and powerful would store their most prized and valuable possessions or documents. Of course, that also comes with some confidentiality, which means you'll never know whose stuff is in there unless they tell you. While we know that Bill Gates, the Smithsonian Museum, and the US government use the Iron Mountain Vault, everything else is pretty secretive. There are no guests allowed, nothing is ever divulged, and the whole thing is basically one big question mark. So much for transparency, eh? Number 5. Cheyenne Mountain Complex. When a facility is nuclear blast-proof, you know they're pretty serious about security. Although, when you're home to the North American Aerospace Defense Command, or NORAD, you definitely need to be cautious. It's really not the time to be having Mr. Bean running security, although it would be hilarious if, it wouldn't kill us. The Cheyenne Mountain Complex is located beneath 2,000 feet of granite in Colorado Springs, making it one of the most secure facilities in all of North America. And given that they're so far from civilization, the facility has its own power plant, water supply, hospital, heating system, and basically a whole little city of its own that would keep NORAD moving should things get really, truly bad. With that kind of ingenuity, you should feel pretty comforted. Although it's pretty apparent that nobody stands a chance in terms of getting a tour. In fact, as one of the most valuable government organizations, there is basically no chance of getting anywhere near it. This is really one of those cool hypothetical locations because, honestly, none of us will ever see it in person. Unless Mr. Bean does take it over. Number 4. The White House. You all knew this one was coming, right? The President of the United States is not only considered to be the most powerful person in the world, but also one of the most heavily protected.
Over that way. Let's go.
Which, as a leader of the free world, is not really a surprise. The president is basically a baby, and there's a whole bunch of nannies there to watch him. The White House is so well protected that it may as well be a fortress, with 147 bulletproof windows, 1,300 Secret Service agents, a constantly present SWAT team on the roof, and a President Emergency Operations Center buried 6 stories beneath the building. It's kind of amazing that the president can get anything done at all. I imagine most people would love to be able to protect their homes like this, although sadly we do not have access to taxpayer money, no matter how often I contact them. There, shockingly, has not been many cases of genuine trespassing at the White House, although the word shockingly may be a little silly given the fact that the place is quite literally protected like a fortress. Number 3. RAF Menwith Hill. The RAF Menwith Hill is a lot like the British equivalent of Las Vegas.
Is a unique RAF station.
Whatever happens there, stays there. But unlike Las Vegas, there's a whole bunch of people desperate to know exactly what is going on within this mysterious RAF base. And there are even more people doing their best to give approximately 0 answers. Menwith Hill is an RAF base located west of North Yorkshire in England, known for its role in the Cold War as a base dedicated to monitoring Soviet communications. However, now the base is more closely allied with the NSA's global surveillance network. And, as with anything related to the NSA, a lot of people are very, very concerned about it. Nobody actually knows what goes on inside Menwith Hill, or what it's used for. Human rights groups and politicians have demanded transparency, but the British government continues to decline the question, claiming that national security measures cannot be discussed. In many ways, the Menwith Hill facility is the British equivalent of Guantanamo Bay, so it makes a lot of sense for it to be so fiercely protected. What happens inside is anyone's guess, but I think everybody knows that it ain't pleasant. Number 2. Her Majesty's bedroom. We all know the president is pretty well protected, but is there someone even more protected? You bet! Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II and her family are not only well protected in the UK, but they're also basically fortified themselves. Since 1983, the royal family has been protected 24 hours a day by the Royal Protection Squad, an elite group of SAS-trained officers assigned to protect an assortment of royal family members from any threat they may face. And that includes the lesser-known or less important ones. Sorry, but every family has some less important members, right? There's no room more secure in the world than Her Majesty's bedroom. After a strange man managed to bypass the high-tech security of the 1990s and entered the Queen's bedroom, security was drastically upped. Not only are the high walls of the palace covered with revolving spikes and barbed wire, but the room is now protected by 24/7 armed guards, motion sensors, and highly sophisticated alarms. While we're not totally sure who would want to break into the Queen's bedroom, it's better to be safe than sorry. And the Queen is very, very safe. I'm sure she'll sleep peacefully tonight. Number 1. The Greenbrier. Every country seems to have a leftover bunker from the days of the Cold War. For America, that bunker is known as Greenbrier. However, not many people actually seem to know that because, well, it's hidden beneath an otherwise perfectly ordinary resort in West Virginia. For reasons that are probably to do with security, Greenbrier advertises itself as an otherwise ordinary resort, albeit for the most exclusive clientele. Claiming to be America's resort since 1778, this place has been the temporary home to over 26 US presidents and a whole lot more European royals, including the Duke and Duchess of Windsor. However, most of these foreign dignitaries were utterly clueless about the resort's most incredible secret. I can only imagine how confused they were to be at this unusual, out-of-the-way resort in rural America. Historically, Greenbrier Bunker was intended to be the final refuge of the American government after the unimaginable nuclear fallout. Now, it's a highly guarded rural resort whose guests are hilariously unaware of that fact. If that doesn't say something about the way our world has moved, I have no idea. Would you dare visit any of these high-security places? Let us know in the comments. Also, check out our other cool stuff showing up on the screen right now. See you next time.